beautiful day in the neighborhood, wherever you are. If you're just tuning in, don't think that your sound's not working. I haven't been saying anything. Always come on a little early because this is Facebook Live, and I want to let it build the audience. So we've got less than around 2 minutes before we start today's session. So again, thank you. And again, don't check your volume. All is well. Now, meanwhile, I'll do my shout outs at the beginning as I see people coming on. But the thing is, I want to try to keep this into a half an hour. Hey, Smitty. I want to keep it into a half an hour because the thing is, I know that, people are maybe on their lunchtime or, taking a break, whatever. So that's what I'll definitely try to do, is keep this to 30 minutes. And, it's funny because when you practice, broadcasts or whatever, you think you've got the timing. And because one thing that you actually want to do as a speaker, technically what we do is we over prepare, because it's better to have too much information than not enough. And especially in a situation like this, if it's a live seminar or something, then it's sometimes okay to not have enough information, and then you can let it be more interactive and answer questions from the audience. But everything has an option, and everything has a growth process that you have to go through. Smitty, it's just you and me right now, and we got less than 2 minutes. I hope all is well with you. I'll go check your page when I get finished here and just send you a blessing, and thank you for always being a blessing, and thank you for having that cancer awareness ribbon as your profile picture. Anybody, the man-made calendar has us celebrating or aware of certain types of things, but we need to be celebrating and being aware year-round. Especially with each day, because there's always a malady, there's always somebody sick, there's always a tragedy going on. So it's important, and I think that leads well into what today's topic is, as we talk about prayer, as I call it, easy. And we've got less than a minute, so we're going to get ready to get started. But so let's do that. Let's get started. What I said in the promo is three things. What makes prayer so hard? How does our vocabulary impact the perception of our blessing? And what's the best prayer? Welcome to Glue Wednesday. Glue, G-L-U-E. God's love undoes everything. If it's your first time on the broadcast, watching the broadcast, the reason I've chosen to create this is because on Wednesday, a lot of people tend to call Wednesday hump day. And Wednesday, but for me, I think hump gives a connotation of meaning to get over. I see Wednesday as the middle of the week, technically the 7 days. It's the middle of the week. So it's the day that keeps the beginning of the week and the end of the week together. So I call Wednesday the glue. And I like to see that I like to think that it's more important that instead of us considering getting over, we consider keeping it together. Because isn't that the tough part of life? Is keeping it together. We all go through some trials and tribulations, but one of the things that we sometimes overlook is the self-fulfilling prophecy right in that sentence, in that cliche. We're all going through something. We're going through, y'all. It means that we've already decided, we've already got the faith that says we're going to be able to make it. Sometimes we lose sight of that faith because of the input that we get from different people around us and in our lives. Which also, one thing I always say is choose your messengers carefully, because you will be a part of the domino effect of somebody's messenger. So choose your messengers carefully and recognize that you're somebody's messenger. Somebody is listening to you, watching what you do, and then they're passing that on to someone else. And that's the joy of life, and that's why we should be appreciative and understanding more of our personal power. So again, let's go to today's topic, and it's easy. ASEASY. Expect angels to save you. See, prayer is not an easy thing. What makes prayer so hard? Well, what makes prayer so hard is that we expect instant results. We want ASAP. Look, God, I prayed for this, and not only am I praying for this, I wanted to meet me at 3 o'clock on the corner of 5th and Main, and I wanted to have on the see, we have this unrealistic aspect to our prayer sometimes. and we get caught up in our faith kind of dipping, where we start to ask, well, why me? What's the matter? I'm angry at God. That sometimes is what makes the prayer hard, because we don't have that patience when we pray. I know a lot of people tend to, when somebody's in some kind of tragedy and they post it on Facebook, then there are people, praying for you and praying for speedy recovery. And I got to tell you, if you've ever gotten one of those, a prayer from me, it always says, basically, these words, it says, praying in faith, not fear, for your smooth recovery at a time where speed has no foothold. See, again, I'm always listening to the words that I use, because they do make a difference. I know we want to be quick to show our support and say, I wish you a speedy recovery, but sometimes speed is not the answer to recovery. Sometimes speed puts us in more danger because we don't heal fully. So whether it's a physical or spiritual or emotional recovery that we need, it's not always about the speed. So look, try to wish people a smooth recovery. In other words, hope that they really get over whatever the challenge is. Not that they find a way to just fill in the blank and then put themselves in a new harm's way. They just got out of a broken relationship, because that's something people pray. I hope your speedy recovery, you got your heart broken, divorce, stuff like that. But then if they don't really heal, they get right into another relationship that's just as unhealthy for them. Situations where someone may have gone through a loss of a loved one, and so they become widowed or widow. That it's not a speedy recovery that we want for that, but we want them to become whole again and recognize that they do have something to offer into a new relationship, and not look for somebody where they're looking for somebody to save them, and then over time they end up, and quick time, by the way, they become a burden to that new relationship because they still haven't purged the other one. There's a lot of different ways to go, and again, we only got 30 minutes, but think about what you're going through and things that you've been through, and the prayers that you've offered to people. Are you consistently offering them a wish for a speedy recovery or a full recovery? And like I say, a smooth recovery, because recovery it may be tough, but if it's a physical therapy situation, coming from an illness, well, we want them to have the least pain possible, but we also recognize that pain is important or necessary sometimes in the rehabilitation process, because we're doing new things with muscles. So one of the things I'm going to do today is also read some of the stuff that becomes a part of why I seem to, and I say seem to because I know people seem to think, that I've got this endless faith, and I do, but I also want you to see where I pour it into myself. I don't just walk around and I've just got this going on. I've got resources. I focus on being positive, and I'm not positive 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and I don't expect you to be, but I'm positive more than I'm negative. I'm up more than I'm down, and I'm going forward more than I'm going backwards. And because of my love of words, I recognize that sometimes we have to reframe that going backwards to realizing that sometimes we just have to step back and take a look at our world. Look at your track record. Step back and look at the hurdles that you've eclipsed and give yourself credit for that. Too often we don't give ourselves a pat on the back. We expect someone else to give us a pat on the back when in fact they don't know what we've really been through. And sometimes they can't give us a pat on the back because they don't know what we just overcame. And then we may end up subconsciously getting upset with them for not giving us a pat on the back, when in fact they don't even know that we need one right now, okay? So you pat yourself on the back. You keep your prayers going for you. So here's something that I have, and it's called prayer. It's called patience in prayer. So what makes prayer so hard? It's the fact that we want a speedy recovery. So here's my answer to the first question for today, is what makes prayer so hard? That we're impatient. So this is called patience in prayer. When the idea is not right, God says no. No when the idea is not the best. No when the idea is absolutely wrong. No, though it may help you, it might create problems for someone else. When the time is not right, God says slow. What a catastrophe it would be if God answered every prayer when we want it. Do you know what would happen? God would become your servant, not your master. Suddenly God would be working for you instead of you working for God. When you are not right, God says grow. The selfish person has to grow in unselfishness. The cautious person must grow in courage. The timid person must grow in confidence. The dominating person must grow in sensitivity. The critical person must grow in tolerance. The negative person must grow in positive attitudes. The pleasure-seeking person must grow out of the frivolous. When everything is all right, God says, go. Then miracles happen. A hopeless alcoholic is set free. A drug addict finds release. A doubter becomes a child in his belief. Diseased tissue responds to treatment and healing begins. The door to your dreams suddenly swings open, and there stands God saying, go. Remember, God's delays are not God's denials. God's timing is perfect. Patience is what we need in prayer. Have the best day of your life today. So I hope you see how that connects to what we were saying earlier about us rushing the prayer. Look for a smooth recovery, because when God says no, and he says go slow, and then he says grow, and then he'll finally say go. And believe me, it's always going to be worth the wait. So at the end of that, I put a little bullet on it that has one of my acronyms for prayer from my book, Ac-Firmations. It's prayer, P-R-A-Y. Patiently receiving a yes. Patiently receiving a yes. Because God is going to say yes. Remember that my whole premise is that prayer is easy. Expect angels to save you. Pray and get out of the way. And God is that angel at this time. So pray to God and then move and let him work it the way he needs to work it. And you'll see that's going to work to his benefit and yours. So that takes me to a poem I want to share with you that I wrote way back in 1900. And it's called Controlling Angels. You see, we've heard the saying, an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other. My belief is that we have an angel on each shoulder. I just don't always know which one to follow, because our hard choices in life are not between good and evil, but between good and good. So this poem is called Controlling Angels. You see, as one angel begged me to follow the right path, the other urged me down the left. Either presented me with a lining of gold. Each had a method to its blessing. Both knew when they had my attention. As important as it is to control your angels, it is equally crucial that you walk the path on the correct side, no matter what side that be. So do you hear that? I'm not saying there's a right and wrong, there's a right and left. And when you have to make a tough decision, the toughest decision is when you've got two great options that seem like great options to me. So you got to control your angel. Say, I don't have a bad angel. Bad angel, isn't that kind of like an oxymoron? They're good angels. And if you say God is good and you're made in the image of God, then you get to say that you're good. So your hard choices are between, oh God, which one of these good paths do you want me to go down? I'm ready to go. Which one should I go down? So control your angels by doing what? Controlling yourself. Controlling your thought pattern. Recognize that everything you do is right, because it's right for you based on the information you have to make the decision and the choice. If you know more, you do better. So get the right information, choose the right messengers so that you can walk that correct path and then be confident about walking it again, because you know what, that was a good path. Let me extend it. And that's another thing I always remind people. Try to catch people doing something right, especially if you're a supervisor, a parent, a teacher. Catch people doing something right and encourage them to keep doing right. We spend too much time sometimes trying to catch people doing something wrong. Now, let's move to the next phase of the next question. So that took care of what makes prayer so hard. It's the impatience and not controlling our angels. But how does our vocabulary impact the perception of our blessing? The reason I say the perception of our blessing, because sometimes we don't see how blessed we are. We say we do. How you feel? Oh, I'm blessed by the best. Well, if you're blessed by the best, why are you stressed out? See, we don't see our blessings. So I'm going to just share some things with you that I think you'll enjoy. The first one is a mind twister for you. It's called an easy choice. It's a quick one. See if you get the answer. A murderer is condemned to death. He has to choose between 3 rooms. The first room is full of raging fires. In fact, I'm going to want you to get ready to answer which one of these choices you think he's going to make, okay? So I see we got a couple people on. Answer which choice you think he's going to make. He has 3 choices. The first room is full of raging fire. The second room is full of assassins with loaded guns. And the third room is full of lions that haven't eaten in 3 years. Which room is safest for him? A murderer is condemned to death, and he has to choose between 3 rooms. The first room is full of raging fire. The second room is full of assassins with loaded guns. And the third is full of lions that haven't eaten in 3 years. Which room is safest for him? Go on and write room 1, 2, or 3. Go on and click it in. Write room 1, 2, or 3. Yeah, and should he choose room 1 with the raging fire? Should he choose room 2 with the assassins with loaded guns? Or should he choose room 3 with the lions who haven't eaten in 3 years? Okay? Okay? Room 3. Okay. All right. Okay, here we go. And the answer is yes, room 3. Room 3, but here's the reasoning behind it. Lions that haven't eaten in 3 years are dead. See, so how we, listen to what you're saying when you make decisions in your life and when you have choices. Lions who haven't eaten in 3 years are dead. So if that's the safest room for him to choose, and sometimes the safest room for us to choose is decision number 3. But more importantly, listen to what your options are and weigh them carefully. Words are powerful. Don't decide what someone is saying, because a lot of times someone might say, oh my God, well, if the lions haven't eaten in 3 years, they're really hungry, they're going to rip them apart. No, they haven't eaten in 3 years, they're gone. Okay, next one. This one's not a quiz. The pastor asked if anyone, but this is also about how important it is to use your words properly. The pastor asked if anyone in the congregation would like to express praise for answered prayers. A lady stood and walked to the podium. She said, I have a praise to report. 2 months ago, my Frank had a terrible bicycle wreck, and his scrotum was completely crushed. The pain was excruciating, and the doctors didn't know if they could help him. You could hear a muffled gasp from the men in the congregation as they imagined the pain that Frank must have experienced. She went on, Frank was able to hold me or the children, and every move caused him terrible pain. We prayed as the doctors performed a delicate operation, and it turned out that they were able to piece together the crushed remnants of Frank's scrotum and wrap wire around it to hold it in place. Again, the men in the congregation were unnerved and squirmed uncomfortably as they imagined a horrible surgery performed on Frank. Now, she announced in a quavering voice, thank the Lord, Frank is out of the hospital, and the doctors say that with time, his scrotum should recover completely. All the men sighed with relief. The pastor rose and tentatively asked if anyone else had something to say. A man stood up and walked slowly to the podium. He said, I'm Frank. The entire congregation held its breath. He said, I just want to tell my wife that the word is not scrotum, but sternum. The words we use in our prayer will make a difference. So, make sure that when you pray, you're asking for the right thing. Be clear about what your prayer is about, okay? So be careful of how you say, what you say, and know what you're saying. That's what prayer is all about. And so my bullet point on that is pray. P-R, my next, moving on. Yeah, oh my word. Yeah, yeah, not scrotum, sternum, okay? So your vocabulary impacts the perception of your prayer. So let's move on to what else impacts the perception of your prayer, and that's P-R-A-Y, precious relationships around you. The people around you impact your prayer. So this is a story about a father who was listening to his little girl say her prayers one night. And after she was finished saying the Lord's Prayer, she said, "Goodbye, Grandpa." The father thought this was interesting, but the next day his father died, and he shook his head at the coincidence. The following week, as he was once again listening, he heard his little girl say the Lord's Prayer and then say, "Bye, Grandma." The next day, his wife's mother died. He now started to feel a little eerie and wondered if his daughter was in touch with the other side. So when he overheard her saying, "Bye, Daddy," he went into a panic. He didn't go to sleep that night, went into the office early and closed his door, had lunch brought in, told his wife he was working overtime, and drank nonstop coffee trying to get through to the next day because his father and the mother's mother had died after she had said goodbye. Even that night, he took a different route home just in case. When he got home, he looked terrible, and his wife asked if he were okay. He said, "I'm fine, but you wouldn't believe the day I had and how glad that I'm at it ended, and it's after 12 o'clock. His wife said, "You think your day ended badly. Mine started out with the postman dropping dead on our doorstep." Take a minute, let that sink in. "Bye, Grandpa," dead. "Bye, Grandma," dead. "Bye, Daddy," the postman dies. Oldest story in the book about the postman, you know, mama's baby, papa's baby. But again, it's all about us making sure that in prayer we have precious relationships around us. And laughter is an important relationship to have so that your prayers move you in the right direction. It's okay to laugh when you pray. God gets the joke, even when other people don't. So that, again, that's one of the things that I have in my toolbox is some laughter to keep my prayers going and to keep my faith strong. So this next one is called, is actually one that I especially want to read now as we have moved into the school system, because into the school time frame, because it's an important prayer that I want us to share with our teachers. And here it goes. After being interviewed by the school administrator, the prospective teacher said, "Okay, let me see if I got this right. You want me to go into that room with all those kids, correct their disruptive behavior, observe them for signs of abuse, monitor their dress habits, censor their T-shirt messages, and instill in them a love for learning." Let me get it right. You want me to check their backpaths for weapons, wage war on drugs and sexually transmitted diseases, and raise their sense of self-esteem and personal pride. You want me to teach them patriotism and good citizenship, sportsmanship, and fair play, and how to register to vote, balance a checkbook, and apply for a job. You want me to check their heads for lice, recognize signs of antisocial behavior, and make sure that they all pass the final exams. In fact, you also want me to provide them with an equal education regardless of their handicaps, and communicate regularly with their parents in English, Spanish, or any other language by letter, telephone, newsletter, and report card and email. You want me to do all of this with a piece of paper, a piece of chalk, a blackboard, a bulletin board, a few books, a big smile, and a starting salary that qualifies me for food stamps. You want me to do all of this, and then you tell me I can't pray? Are you nuts? Thank a teacher in your prayers today and tonight, because this is some of the old stuff when you think about the chalk and the bulletin board, because we've got the whiteboard and the markers and the smart boards. But pray for our teachers. We ask a lot of them, and sure, it's an age-old you know, an age-old argument that teachers don't get paid enough. And then we got people that pipe in and get upset with teachers and, you know, well, they don't deserve it. My child's not getting this. Remember, you know, did you hear what that said? It's your child. You've got one child to think about. And your child is not acting in school necessarily the way you have them disciplined to act at home. Sometimes the great discipline you have at home, school is a chance for them to release from that discipline. And they go to school and they get with their friends and the peer pressure, and then they start acting out. And then when you get a call from the teacher, you are like, wait a minute, that's not my child. And instead of listening to what happens, you take sides with your child and go against the teacher. What child, I know I didn't, what child goes home and says, Mommy, Daddy, you know what? The teacher was totally right. I was a real jerk today in school. I was acting up and disrupting everybody, and we couldn't get the lesson done because I just had to have all these jokes and make all these noises and sounds. You know, the kids don't go home and say, no, I don't know what the teacher's talking about. So now they're going to get the double discipline because they're going to, sooner or later, the parent is going to recognize that the child was wrong in what they did in their discipline once they get the evidence, and then they're going to get in trouble for lying as well. And are they going to learn that lesson? For the moment they are, but they're going to lie again. And they're going to be disruptive again. I was. You know, maybe you weren't. Maybe you got the lesson on the first shot. I did. So please, let's pray for our teachers. Thank our educators, you know, because you can go back and think of a teacher whose nerves you plucked. And now you wish you could thank that teacher for how tough they were on you. I know I've got plenty that I can thank. So as I close out today's session, I want to say that so that answers how does our vocabulary impact the perception of our blessing. It's the things we say from the people around us. And it's the people who infuse what they say into us. That would be the teachers. Teachers offer us a great prayer. They offer students that faith that they believe that the child can learn. When you're teaching a child, that's saying that you believe that they're going to learn it. And you have a way of teaching that you want to try to, you say, you know, because teachers know and people know everybody learns differently. So they've got to find ways to infuse all of the educational and learning styles into their teaching. Some learn by sight, some learn by hearing, some learn by doing. And so the teachers, you know, that's why they constantly are going to try to get their continuing education credits so that they can become better teachers. And you can do the same. You can become a better parent. You've got a lot of things that you do to help teach your children. Give yourselves credit. Give yourselves credit. Know that your vocabulary makes a difference. So slow down and control your words. Don't let your words control you. Hear what you're asking. You know, again, I ask you to stop praying for people for a speedy recovery and ask them and pray for them to have a smooth recovery or a blessed recovery, you know, the best recovery, because it's not always about speed. And you should remember that when it's your turn to be prayed for, because your frustration with how long it's taking God to heal you also retards your healing. Because part of healing is the right attitude, where you believe in the doctor, you believe in your medication. It's the, you know, suicide. A lot of times, the suicides that we see happening in our lives is a case where someone has decided to stop taking their medicine. So see, so they've taken themselves off the medicine instead of weaning themselves off of the medicine as properly diagnosed, hopefully by a doctor. They take themselves off, and that's what leads them to taking their lives through suicide. So again, it's hearing the messages and having that faith and belief in the things that you do that will make a difference in your physical, mental, and spiritual health. So the best prayer, I believe, is amen. Just amen is the best prayer. Just thank God. And you know, my acronym for amen is AMEN, a message that everyone needs. Just to be able, just to say thank you. Aren't you thankful for today? You know, we say our prayers sometimes at night, but are you saying your prayers in the morning? I'm so glad that I woke up this morning. Amen. A message that everyone needs. And I recognize, I appreciate that I'm somebody's messenger. And I'll share that one. I want to give a shout out. I'll be sharing that message on Encouraging Words by Jamila Freelain. It's going to air it'll air tomorrow on Facebook. Interview that I had the privilege of sitting in and doing with her this week. So that's going to air tomorrow. On Encouraging Words with Jamila Freelain, Freelain. That's airing on Thursday if you're watching this on Wednesday or Thursday morning. But follow her on Facebook as well and YouTube as she continues to extend her prayer for our children, as her message is about getting scholarship money for kids to go to college. So, you know, that's an important message. Don't wait till someone's college age to start thinking about how to get them into college. You know, you want to start thinking about that in middle school. And, you know, I know we want to try to sound, you know, magnanimous and think of it in elementary school, but hey, things are going to change by the time your elementary student gets to where they're eligible for college. But, you know, do it your way. But remember, it's always about the glue. You know, keep sharing your message and keep keeping it together on Glue Wednesday, because GLUE, God's love undoes everything. Give yourself a pat on the back. Continue to pray. Recognize that when you pray, it's easy. EASY. Expect angels to save you. And sometimes you make sure that you recognize that you're the angel. So pray and get out of your own way. Pray and make a difference in somebody's life. And don't think that you have to know whose life it is. Just know that you have to be doing the right things, because your prayer and your power is powerful. And someone who needs you to be you may not get a chance to thank you for being you to your face or to your knowledge. But if you know that you have been doing things the right way, that your intent has been good and God led, you're going to continue to be a blessing to someone. Thank you for being a blessing to me. I will continue to be a blessing to you, and I'll see you next week on Glue Wednesday. God bless you. Ciao.